Confucius, the world-famous thinker and educator in ancient China, says, 有则改之，无则加勉, which means when other people point out your demerits, you should be modest and accept their words. Even if you do nothing wrong, you should stay alert to such mistakes. Personally, I translate this quote as correct it if you are wrong, stay alert if you are right. This quote gives a glimpse of Chinese perspective of mistakes, errors, and problems. It seems that Chinese people have the culturally embedded belief that being modest is a virtue, and they are very accustomed to being judged and advised by others, especially by their superiors. Even if the criticism does not apply to them, they generally accept it and won't argue much. In our context, students and teachers assume similar power relationship. Teachers are supposed to help students by pointing out their errors, mistakes, and problems, rather than praising them. Many Chinese parents and teachers believe that too much positive feedback results in arrogance and overconfidence. Pointing out their mistakes, defects, on the other hand, spur them forward. This might be the cultural root explanation for the obsession. Another origin is called test-oriented. Writing instruction is, to a certain degree, disregarded by curriculum and L2 teachers. EFL students in China generally practice English writing because of compulsory examinations, and the writing test in this examination heavily stress on grammatical correctness. Such orientation results in two trends in L2 writing instruction. Number one, form over content, and number two, product over process. Let's look at them one by one. Teachers may judge an essay to be incompetent simply because of many obvious grammar mistakes. Similarly, a non-native accent can lead to the impression of low language proficiency regardless of the speaking content. It works like the barrel effect. The lowest side of the barrel decides the maximum volume of water in the barrel. And for many Chinese EFL teachers, the lowest side is conventional expression. No matter how well the ideas and the organizations are, no matter how strong the voice is, your writing is doomed so long as you have unconventional expressions. Your essay is only emergent because you do not use complicated sentences structure taught by the teacher. Many writing teachers does not realize that Chinese EFL students have a lot of ideas to write about, but they're just trapped in the language. English writing is, much as Chinese writing, a way of expression in the first place. This owes to the test-oriented English writing. Form is over the content and grammar mistakes result in low scores. So teacher is obsessed with all the unconventional expression or less developed expression and call them flaws, errors, and problems. Because passing the test is the end, writing process as a mean is not valued. How do L2 writing teachers react to the so-called errors, flaws, and problems? Basically, this is what I used to do. I pointed out the errors, told my students the correct way or better way of expressions, and expected them to avoid similar errors after several times of correction. I expect them to understand a complicated sentence structure and use it next time. And if they do not use the structure, I feel confused. I've told you so many times, why don't you just use them? It's not difficult at all. On the one hand, my students received their feedback without arguing. Give a glimpse of my notes. They're like, okay, I made a lot of grammar mistakes. The teacher told me how to correct them, and I'll be more careful next time. That's the end of the story. This is what we call the teacher vehicle. The students are transported by their teachers to the correct place with little time, little need, and little passion for self-reflection. They stay for a while, just a while, and then recess back to their original place. And the teachers become Sisyphus, rolling the students up the hill again and again, in vain. Part 2. Luckily, we have the antidote for such a situation. But why the antidote is the antidote? Learner language or interlanguage are two terms sometimes used interchangeably. I regard them as the same concept in this presentation. Learner language is a dynamic, rule-based linguistic system that has been developed by an L2 learner who hasn't yet reached proficiency. It is shaped by L1 and target language input, but it implied more than that. A formula explains it. Learner language is more than L1 plus target input. It's like a chemical reaction. L1 interacts with L2 language input, forming a semi-product of L2, but not all interlanguage can be explained by such interaction. Some interlanguage remain unknown to us, and they are represented by question marks in the chemical flask.